So we're excited to be here today. I'm not gonna do a lot of talking today, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a market update, tell you what's happening with Zolo, tell you what's happening in the markets in Toronto, Vancouver, Alberta. But I will pass the stage over to Dr. Woodward. He'll be talking about a very interesting topic, which is the psychology of sales. As you guys may be aware, real estate is a very emotional business. Everything is emotions. Anything sales is actually very emotional, right? The other day I was in the supermarket and I was trying to debate which avocado to buy. And there was emotions involved. I was like, should I buy the right one? If I buy the right one, I can have it today. If not, I have to wait. So as you know, real estate is the biggest transaction in the lifetime of a consumer. So there are a lot of emotions. Yesterday I was speaking to an agent that had a very roller coaster of a deal. It was a multi-million-dollar deal. It was like 1.3 or 1.4 million, and it was accepted. There were some problems with the conditions, with the inspection, and it came down to about $4,000 that the buyer wasn't willing to proceed, and it was just $4,000 on $1.3 million. It seemed like it's like a lot of money, but there's a lot of emotions. I've had deals in the past where a fridge, a $200 fridge breaks a deal, or a microwave. Oh, please, you have to leave the microwave. If you don't leave the microwave, I'm walking away from this deal. And it's our job to be support staff to our clients, our consumers, and they need that validation. They can do it themselves. You know, there are some consumers that buy, sell themselves, but for the majority of people, they need support, helping them with this transaction. So let's get started. I promise I won't take too much of your time. This is a very fascinating topic. Q1, the January of 2019, there was a lot of negativity in the market, but the markets have bounced back. In Toronto, does anybody know the April numbers? How much the market was up in the GTA in April? Anybody? You guys are realtors, right? What's that? Sorry. Exactly. Yeah, 16.8%, something like that, right? So the market is back. Don't let the negativity affect you. There are a lot of buyers in the market. Properties are moving. You list it at the right price. In some areas it's still multiple offers. In some areas it takes a little bit longer, but it's a good market to be in. In Vancouver, it's a little bit more challenging, but don't let the negativity affect you guys. And those of you in Vancouver, we're actually broadcasting live here, so we're a national company. Hey guys in Vancouver. Hey guys in Alberta. It's not a bad market actually. Anything over 2 million has slowed down, but for the most part, everything is moving. There is multiple offers in some areas at the lower price points, and in Alberta, it's very much a balanced market. So let's talk a little bit about what we did here at Zolo. Excuse me, guys. It's a little bit of a technical difficulty here. We're stuck on Toronto here. Okay. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I may need your assistance. We're stuck on a slide here. There you go. That's fantastic. So I want to talk about what Zolo did in
there we go.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
You were stuck. Yeah, I was stuck. Yeah, I can't. The largest technology brokerage in Canada, but I can't operate it. Sorry, guys. So this is the numbers here at Zolo. We've had the best month ever, actually, on record. And these are some really impressive numbers. And I want to share it with you guys. So we did about $100 million in total sales volume. So we're on pace this year to well exceed $1 billion in volume. We did over 2 million in gross revenue, and our website continues to grow at a very rapid pace. We're at 6.5 million visitors. This time last year, I think we were at about 4 million, maybe 3.5 million. So you can see the website traffic has doubled, and it all starts with that. Consumers come to our website, they're interested, they get connected to our realtors, and the more visitors we have, the more leads, the more transactions, everything goes up. So how would I get a round of applause for that number there? Yeah, I think what has happened is Yossi has told me to push this right button right there. So I'm going to push it. Watch, you guys are my witness. I'm going to push it. Oh, there you go. Got scared. Awesome. So I want to also do an announcement of the top 10 agents for Zolo in the month of April. This is coast to coast, national. Congratulations to everybody on this list. Congratulations to Danny Finney. Is Danny, are you here? He's too busy doing deals. He's not here. Ihsan is here. Big round of applause for Ihsan. Himanshu Sharma, where are you, Himanshu? Congratulations. Inez, where are you? Lillian Clark. Lillian? We'll give her a round of applause. Ashfaq Hyder? No? Still a round of applause. Keep it going. Rajinder Wickham? Rajinder? There's Rajinder. Congratulations. Gord Ross. Big round of applause for Gord. Gord is actually, he's one of our agents that works in Alberta, very hardworking. Baha Dia. Baha. And Renata. I do know Renata's on vacation, so congratulations to the top 10. Some of these names, again, reoccurring names, but congratulations to the new winners, and let's keep going. We have momentum here. And then I also wanted to announce the agent of the month for April. This agent had 4 Zolo transactions. They had over 65,000 in commissions in a month, so very, very impressive. Shout out, I don't think he was here, to Danny Finney. That happened again, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll give it to Kevin. Kevin, can you?
Yeah.
Can you push that button? Because there's something I'm doing.
Yeah.
I want to go back one slide.
One slide.
There's something I'm doing. Oh, back. Good way.
Forward?
Back one slide. One more slide. There you go.
Should we go workshop now?
Yes, I'll participate in that workshop. So as you guys may be aware, we launched something called Facebook. It's called Workplace. It's by Facebook. It takes 20 seconds to register. It allows you to communicate with other agents. Allows you to post your listings, any topics of discussion. For the most part, we've had no issues, and I love it. If you guys have it, again, just take a moment, register for it. There are some rules with it, though. We have to be respectful to our fellow team members. So some of the rules are you cannot bash a fellow realtor on Workplace. If you do that, you're going to get banned. And you're probably going to have a conversation with Kevin or I, because it's just, it's not a place for, it's not your typical Facebook where you can post religious stuff or bash other people's beliefs or how they operate their business. We don't do that. We're a team. So please don't do that. The other thing is, we also ask for you to be respectful on any issues that you're having with the website or your CRM, anything personally that affects you as a realtor at Zolo. We ask you to have that conversation with your manager or some of the senior management here. So that's it. We also had a new thing that we tried. We actually went from our old service provider call center to a new call center. And it unfortunately didn't work out the way we expected. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm asking for forgiveness from you guys, because I think we screwed up there. And we're not always 100%. We tried something new, and so over the last week or so, maybe you had some incorrect confirmations, some confirmations not happening. So I'm going to buy you guys each of fresh baked cookies. I think. You don't like fresh baked cookies, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that. And I ask
Bagels.
for forgiveness on that because we always try as a technology company. We always try to strive to do things better. And we thought that was the right move, but I guess it wasn't the right move. So we quickly realized that it was a mistake, and we've gone back to our old service provider. We are trying to make sure they have adequate staff, so you don't have the long wait times, because that has been a problem lately. So I apologize for that, but I don't see any tomatoes coming at me, so I assume that you guys forgive me for that. Okay, good, thank you. So that's it for my session. What I want to do is I want to introduce Dr. Michael Woodworth. He is a professor at the University of British Columbia in Okanagan area in Kelowna, and he's also a forensic psychologist. He has years of experience speaking about the psychology and emotions and of sales. He's also an international speaker. And I hope you guys get value in this because, again, from my experience, real estate is all emotions, right? If you figure out what your consumer is thinking, or if you work with your consumer, you could be really successful. So I want to introduce Dr. Michael Woodworth in a few minutes. And thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your time. Okay. Okay, everybody. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I want to start off with a big thank you, not only a thank you to Zolo and for all of you for coming here today, but also a giant thank you for other reasons that will become apparent with the story I'm about to tell you. So, I spend a lot of time in prisons, and this was a dark and stormy morning. And because of that, and a few other reasons, I was late for work. The problem was I was late for work going into a maximum security prison to interview, I had 2 murderers that day that I had to interview, but it ended up only being 1. So you can imagine driving up last minute on a rainy day, stressed, flustered, and get into the prison. And typically, I would need to have enough time to review the file of the inmate that I was going to be talking with. In this case, I didn't. And so I asked the guards if they would take me down to an interview room to see this individual without having the time to review the file. Fair enough. Interestingly enough, the guards in some of these prisons, it's an unnamed prison in North America, okay? Don't worry, I'm not picking on, for anyone to say, oh, he's picking on a prison, don't worry. They took me down, it's sort of like, it felt like it was in one of these TV shows, like the most sort of discombobulating to the back area of the prison, a room I didn't typically interview individuals in. And when I got in the room, and funny enough, these two guards the whole time, I've been going to this prison off and on for a couple of months, they just really didn't like me. And I actually heard them as they walked away. I could have sworn I heard them, I thought maybe it's just my mind, I'm tired and frazzled. I heard them high-five each other in the hallway walking away from me. Okay, what's going on here? I opened the file of the person I'm about to talk to. Okay, right away I see they're in there for 2 different murders. Not the biggest deal, this is not gonna get me going yet. But then, I start looking through the file and see, what's this hostage taking in the prison? It's been a month where this individual had to spend time in segregation, additional charges, having a guard and another inmate as a hostage. They did what to the person? Huh? So I start to panic, but I try not to let my emotions get away from me. And then I hear the guards coming. And I actually hear the sort of like out of a movie shuffle down the hallway person. I think they had just his legs locked up. And as they got outside the door, I heard them unlock where I'm like, what are these guards doing? You know, I can't believe this. I also noticed one other major important point. Always in these situations, you sit closer to the door, right? You never box yourself in one of these forensic interviews. You always make sure you can be the first one out of the room. Where did I go and sit down to review the file? At the desk, not closest to the door. I'm like, great. Also means, by the way, there's a security button you can hit if things go awry in one of these interviews. You can hit a security button, which is where, right by the door where you'd be sitting if you sat right by the door. So I'm like, okay, I'm really in for it here. In walks said inmate, and this thing is finicky. Guess we'll just have to have thank you on the slide for the whole time. Any particular place I should point this to get it to?
Yes, it wasn't me.
It might be it just doesn't want to go to the next slide. Oh, just on the right. That's back, and then on the other side. Okay, there we go. In walks this guy. And I'm like, okay, great. You know, it's not this particular guy, but hey, believe me, look pretty much the same. He sits down, and I had one of, you know, sometimes you have these moments in your lives where what they're saying is exactly what you think at the same time. Sure enough, I had one of those moments. As I was thinking, I can't believe they left me alone in here with this guy. He was saying, I can't, with a whole bunch of F-bombs chucked in for good measure, that they left me alone with you. I just can't F-bomb, 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 all sorts of things. And then, to make it even worse, he said something along the lines of, I started panicking to this point where I can't exactly remember what he said, something along the lines of, I could do so many different things to you. Okay, so when he said that, boom, I went into full fight or flight mode. Total panicking, felt like that. And I thought, okay, well, I can't really fight this guy. It's no draw here, I'm done, right? No draw. And I can't really flee. I've got nowhere to go. So what do I do with this guy? And then he said to me, okay, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do in this situation? You know, are you going to lunge for the alarm button? Are you going to just start yelling? And in my mind, I'm like, I think I heard the guards high five again and walk away. You know, slam, slam, all the doors as they go down this corridor. And so what did I do when I got in a situation like that? I absolutely froze. Like I literally close to what you would call dissociative state. I started, maybe some of you know this song. I think what went through my head for a minute, sail away, sail away, sail away. I was like, literally, okay, I can't cope right now. I'm just going to start going into my head. Staring at this guy, he's staring at me. He's like, come on, what are you going to do? What's your next move? What are you going to do? I panicked. And then I thought, all of you probably have these situations where you're like, okay, I'm going to make a commitment, whether it's to myself or someone else or a higher power. I'm never, if I get through this, then I will this. Well, for me in this situation, I was like, I got to stop spending so much time in the prison. I can't just keep talking to all these murderers. This can't keep happening. I got to expand my repertoire. I have to do something else in life than just spend time talking to and being in prisons. So I was like, if I can get out of this situation without getting harmed, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take my life in other directions as well. And through that process, I looked up at the guy, waiting to see what would happen. And he's like, oh, and he looked super impressed. And he'd lost a lot of his bravado. He seemed really impressed with me. And I'm like, that's funny. I was just Enya sailing away and making weird promises to myself. How's this guy? He's like, oh, I see you got some guts. You're not going to try and call for help? You're not going to hit the alarm? You're just going to sit there and you're cool? And I was like, yeah. He's like, fine, let's talk. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So, coming back to my initial thank you, I want to give a giant thank you to all of you, because right now, back then when I had that image was something different. Nothing to do with murder, nothing to do with forensic, some other setting where I could be in. I'm in it now with all of you. A giant thank you to all of you. And I want everyone to stand up. I want us all to do victory pose. Give yourself a big round of applause. Victory pose. I'm going to take a selfie. I'm going to take a selfie that I can have of this moment. It's going to be a little awkward with the setup. I'm going to do my best. Let's see. I'm actually not a selfie. Okay, I'll take a couple different ones. All right, everyone, victory pose. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear it. Come on. You can do better than that. Come on. One more time. All right. By the way, research suggests that if you do that victory pose each morning for 1 minute, if you literally practice your victory pose for 1 minute each morning, you can have all sorts of benefit in your day in terms of your positivity. I tried it this morning just to get pumped for this talk. Unfortunately, the ceiling in the hotel I'm staying in is not that high, so I went in full victory up to the bathroom. Brushed my teeth, I'm like, I'm doing victory pose, 1 minute, and then this talk is going to be awesome. Bam! And both my knuckles on the top of the, so that was particularly good. Wow, this is a really finicky, Mustafa, you weren't lying. Let me. Yeah, oh my gosh. You go back 2 slides. There we go. Who wants Bruno Mars? Who wants Bruno Mars? This one? No. Selfie? No. Back. Right there. Okay. So today, as my thank you gift to all of you for getting me here, this is clearly not prison segregation. I'm so thrilled to be here. We're going to talk about strategies that each and every one of you can use. A lot of them fairly straight ahead. Some of them that you haven't maybe thought of as much before, about ways to impress and improve as a realtor, and most importantly, as a human being. I make a commitment to each of you that if you actually follow these pieces of advice, I think there's about 52,000, although I've been told it's maybe a bit more. I think there's about 52,000 realtors in the Greater Toronto area. I would say if you follow these pieces of advice and you get above a certain level on each one, you will be in the top 1% of realtors. I firmly believe that. I put that challenge out to you, put you to the test. You can do it. And that is my commitment and my gift to all of you. You got Bruno Mars. This is 24 karat. This is what can help you. And so let's keep going. We're also going to, hey, if that's not enough, we're also going to play a game at the end. I created, myself, a game called Who Wants to Be a Realtor Extraordinaire? All right? We're going to play it at the end. We're going to need 3 people to come up. So be paying attention to everything I say from now on. Everything's fair game. Everything I say is fair game. The more you pay attention, the better chances you'll have at the end. And we're not messing around here, just in case everyone's like, oh, what does it mean? Some sort of prize. Well, thank you so much to Zolo. We're having prizes of, first prize, this is actually not bad, $50 gift certificate. Okay, so that's not too shabby. And I guess the most important thing to say, it's a $50 gift certificate to the liquor store. So there you go. Talk about now, wow, that's the most, I've seen a few people that I haven't seen look up or all of a sudden, second, yeah, here we go, look at that. Here they are. These are all of yours to lose, right? Each of you could have these. It's more about me taking them away from you. 50, 35, and 15. So you can at least get a 6-pack with the $15 one. Amazing prizes to be won. And again, thank you to Zolo. Okay, so any information I provide, including one of the questions at the end when we play this game, Who Wants to Be a Realtor Extraordinaire? All right, next slide. Okay, I came up with this idea of better realtors, self and sales, but there's no 2 ways around it. Bursass just doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good at all, so I promise you that's the last time I'll use it. But when I was preparing for this talk, I realized each of you are, in so many good ways, unique individuals in terms of what you do. But there's also a lot of challenges in terms of how you live your lives. And it's very similar to me as a clinical psychologist. You always got to be on when you're with your clients or people. You've got to be pretending things are great. You've always got to be giving a certain disposition, even if you're not really feeling it. It's super competitive. There's all sorts of issues around trying to keep boundaries, home life, or time with friends. You have to keep a special kind of budget. The market is totally irregular. So you've got all these challenges before you. However, I firmly believe that this puts you in a position where you can achieve so much, and happiness and satisfaction can be yours. My wife and I, we watch a little bit of reality TV. I'll just be, I'm just going to admit it. And I think it was a bit of a stretch to say I could justify comparing for this with this particular show, Selling Sunset. However, one aspect of that show is a $40 million house that they're trying to sell and that they're having difficulty selling. What I would ask each and every one of you in the room to do is to pick out some particular challenge that you have right now, some particular sale that you're trying to make, some particular purchase that you're trying to have clients make, or pick something else if you want non-related. But try and focus on something that would be your equivalent. Each of you probably has, I'm guessing, the equivalent of the 40 million house dilemma. Okay, so maybe have that as your goal. If you follow these strategies, that can be the outcome for you. All right, next slide. Okay, research suggests to us that the more creative we can be, the more we can actually be critical thinkers, the more productive we can be. Each of you now, we're all going to do a fun task. None of you woke up this morning thinking that you have to be thinking about what bird you are, but here we all are. All right, so let's have some fun with it. Which of these 4 birds, and I apologize, my birds don't correspond with my birds. I know some of you like that. Which of these 4 birds do you feel best represent you as a realtor? Peacock, raven, hummingbird, or owl? Each of you think about which of these you want to be. So as a realtor in your life, which of these 4 birds? Peacock, raven, hummingbird, or owl? This is going to become important also in terms of one other aspect. So you need to pick one of these. Okay? We'll come back to this next slide. Very quick details about each of these, just so you can, and by the way, you've got your notepads there. They're going to come in handy very soon. Interestingly, each of these birds have some really great qualities that would make for a realtor. Peacocks, of course, one of the most beautiful birds on the planet. They're known to engage in some sort of what we would call, not outright deception, but they have some clever ways about getting people to respond to them. And they can actually, they're very social. They can grow attachments to humans. And of course, that idea of social attachments, very important as well. Next slide. I like the movement on that raven right now. Super smart. Ravens are unbelievably smart. They demonstrate playful and adaptive behavior, which is something all of you want to be feeling adaptable. And look at this one. One of the most important things for any human being, but for a realtor, they're capable, you don't have to think about this when you think of ravens, they're capable of feeling empathy. Okay? So some of you that have picked your birds already are like, yeah, pick the hummingbirds. Who doesn't love a cute little hummingbird? Some might know they don't have a sense of smell, but actually they can hear really well. So in terms of actually listening to people, hearing, very, very good quality, great memory, and ability to memorize things and have that in their back pocket. And they can go into a hibernation-like state, very similar, I think, to when people would start to go, dare I say, meditate. And final bird, oh yeah, I like the owl. That owl move, there you go. If you get nothing else out of the day, you got that owl doing that, everything's good. Like the hummingbird, very superpowered hearing. Adaptive again, they can blend in with their surroundings. And of course, owls, very wise and intelligent. So there's your 4 birds, and I encourage you all now, it's time to take out, I know it's maybe some of you don't have anything hard to write on, it's a bit awkward, but do your best, because this is the first time you're going to need to write in your books. Next slide. Okay, your project is whatever bird you picked. Right? That's the project that you're going to take on here with these items. Cool, right? Who doesn't want Project Hummingbird? Who doesn't want Project Peacock, right? This sounds good. These are like actual names we make up with a RCMP or an FBI file. So each of you, you're going to have your own unique code name as one of these birds. We're going to go through 12 different challenges that you face in your day. Each one scored out of 10. So of course your total possible points, if you're like the most highly functioning human ever, you'd be a 120. Another thing you can do, perhaps put 3 stars by the 3 items you think you need the most work on, and then also 3 stars by the items that you think you really excel at or doing great at. Okay? Another point, when we finish 6 examples, after we've gone through the first 6 challenges, you're going to find somebody in the room that you don't know or you don't know that well. And I want you each to share with each other a strategy that you have and that you use that you find particularly works for you in terms of your self-care. So you're going to want to actually share a piece of advice with your neighbor. Also think about, you fill this out today, you do these 12 items, and then your goal is you fill it out again in 24 days. It's double the 12. Hey, why not? And see what you score then. See how you can improve on these items. Okay? Everybody there? Everybody with me? Who wants to hear these? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Come on. Come on. No more than that. Come on. Let's hear it. All right. Okay. Next slide. So I can't say enough about people, Keith, all these experts in all these different areas, real estate being one of them, but of course for any of them, enhanced self-care and stress reduction has so many benefits for people, not only in their own life, but also in their ability to sell, buy, be a part of the real estate market, be a realtor. It's huge. I know all of you, hey, even just spending time that I have with realtors, feel like you are spinning numerous plates at any given time, all the more so needing something for stress. Next slide. Okay, so no need to feel guilty. Self-care can make an individual more readily likable, project into the world in a way where they're much more approachable, And these things can lead to an increase in sales. One individual who's a behavior economics expert, Jeffrey Pfeffer, maybe you pronounce it, has talked about this as being a serious issue with individuals not doing enough self-care or feeling guilty about doing self-care. Next slide. Okay, this recent article. So look, I've said I'm going to help you get into the top 1% of realtors. I've said I'm going to potentially give you money at the end of this talk. I've said I'm going to make you feel more happy overall. Look, my fourth for all of you, I'm actually going to help you to live longer. If you would like to live longer, this is on the table from today too. I read a recent article in Time talking about a particular group of individuals. Next slide. Masai, Maine in Bolivia, somebody flew there, went into dugout canoes, went way up to the middle of nowhere. These individuals were found to be some of the happiest humans on the planet, the least amount of heart disease, and an extremely long lifespan. Okay, some of these items that I will talk about with you today are the exact same items that the individuals of this culture have been using for themselves. Okay, so these are not in an order of... Can anybody guess? I don't know if anyone saw that. They're not in an order of 1 to 12. Hey, here's some low-hanging fruit. Can anyone guess what's number 1 on my list? Ah! How did you know? Ah! Sleep. Listen, I can't stress enough, there is a direct, not a semi-direct, not maybe, not a no, I figure I can do it on 3, 4, 5 hours a day kind of mentality. There is a direct link between restful sleep and success while awake. I literally, as I was waiting for one of the planes yesterday, one of the news items that came up on my phone was talking about how yet another study had come out saying this is crucial for human beings not to try and play games or compromise on getting enough gainful sleep. Okay, next slide. Oh, there we go. Look, doesn't that feel too good? I don't want anyone to get feeling too restful right now. I'm going to give to you, there's the website right there, all sorts of resources on that website for ways that you can track your sleep, see what things are impacting your sleep. I mean, I could tell you all sorts of things, like don't look at any kind of potentially stressful work email at least an hour before you want to go to sleep. Give yourself an hour pocket. If you do, and if lo and behold you see something stressful, cortisol starts going in your mind, in your brain, you start feeling anxious, it's so much harder to get to sleep. I can tell you, of course, no one likes to hear it about screens once you're in bed and watching the screens. It's all sorts of evidence to suggest it's not good. I mean, really, only sleeping and sex in your bed should be it. Expert after expert says that. Anyway, so while we're on number 2, put down a score on sleep. 0 to you're like the worst sleeper that ever hit planet Earth, or 10, you are like sleep extraordinaire. Banging out of the park sleep-wise. Okay, so number 2, exercise. People knew this was coming, right? There's Beach doing exercise, so happy about my coffee, first thing in the morning. I actually got a mic and had him celebrate with his 6 cups of coffee, maybe 7. You can do your exercise any old way you want it, but a recent study just found that even moving instead of sitting for 30 minutes a day can reduce early death by 17%. Lack of regular exercise contributes to decline in both physical and mental health. Okay, numbers always get bandied around about how much exercise you need to do, how active you should be. Let's go to the next slide. It's very obtainable. The good news is great, super obtainable. Should be aiming for at least 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity each week. Or twice a week, what they call muscle strengthening sessions. One of the most obvious things for this is for people, and I know a lot of people these days, and there's a lot of evidence behind it, yoga. You're doing yoga twice a week. Okay, so think again, rate yourself out of 10. 0, no exercise in your life. Very scary, barren landscape of non-exercise. Or 10. You're 10, you're Olivia Newton-John, you're let's get physical, you're just out there giving her an exercise. Rate yourself out of 10. All right, there you go. That's a 10? All right, I like to hear it. Okay. Depending on how you do on sleep, you could be close to 20. Okay, solution 3. Just simply getting outside more. Study after study, connecting with nature. Okay? This is a big one and becoming more and more of a big one in today's culture. People are getting outside less and less, and they shouldn't be. Now, the amount of time we're spending outside is becoming so compromised, and anything you could be doing to find an extra little bit of time to be outside counts large. Next slide. There you go, those people we were talking about. This is remarkable. That tribe that's doing so well, living so long, least amount of heart disease, they hardly ever sick. Very intriguing. They actually take on an average of 17,000 steps a day. Ton of walking, and most importantly, they're active almost all the time for about 90% of their waking hours, but they're primarily active outside. Okay? Connecting with nature can improve your creativity by a whole bunch and really make you feel like you're more on your game. Weirdly, when I was preparing this talk, I actually thought, I gotta connect more with nature. I don't really do that. I'm so busy. I'm going to see patients, going out to the university, I'm running all over the place. I actually quickly veered in and stopped that. I saw this farm I often pass by. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna pull in there. It's off season. I'm just gonna look at this horse. Right? I'm just gonna go look at this horse. At the time, like, this is a good idea. Park. Go get out, like, yeah, great, this is a nice horse. I'm good, I'm looking at nature, I'm outside. Can't believe it. Of course, then all of a sudden I'm staring at the farmer. He's living there in this empty parking lot, and he's like, oh, hey. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just, I'm looking at your horse. Very nice horse. He's like, okay. You ride horses? Like, no. He's like, okay. You interested in horses or own horses? I'm like, no. And then I was like, I heard myself saying, I'm like, actually, I don't really like horses that much. I just thought I'd come here and, look at the sky and look at the horse. And he was like, I think it's time to leave the property. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. So it can be dangerous. All right, next. This one's near and dear to my heart, everybody. Research is coming out all the time that if there's something that can really get you feeling good and really have you working on things, it is music. It is hardwired deep into our system, that through any known culture and society that we can dig up on planet Earth, since the beginning of time, they have used music as part of their strategy. It works for things like depression, pain management. If you listen to the right type of music as you're driving to work, this can improve your creativity, critical thinking, socializing at the workplace. Not to mention, studies have been found it reduces road rage. Yosi, have we got that? I have another gift for you, a particular song. I've actually found for you, I've sourced something for you that at least a portion of this audience would be very happy with. If we can hear it. Let's see if we can hear it. Can't hear it yet? Oh, you can? Hey. By the way, as we're going, of course, be rating yourselves on how much of your music you want your life. I want to put everyone to sleep. Okay, that's probably good, Justin. Okay, that particular piece of music, I came across this about 4 months ago. I'd ask if anybody knows that song, but it's probably going to be a no. Next slide, if possible. That's actually called Weightless by Marconi Union. I would like to very proudly present to you, this has been rated the most. It's 10 hours long. There's a truncated version you can get that's 4. This is a 10-hour song. People are using this, I think it's got about 10 million views, the 10-hour version to be used for relaxation. Reduces anxiety by 65%, overall stress by 35%. The online reviews are incredible. Like, we all like to look at the reviews of songs. And so I scrolled down on the YouTube to say, oh wow, I wonder what people think of this song. I wonder if I should tell you, should they listen to this most relaxing song of all time? Well, it helped calm explosive diarrhea. Well, there you go. And I let my dog hear this, and now she's a unicorn. Unbelievable. So, listen, some of you, I hope you enjoy the piece. It's the most relaxing song. Believe me, at times when I've been feeling stressed, since I found out about this song, I have put this song on, and sometimes it's really weird. One time I knew it was actually, I got a little scared because I'm like, it feels like even the plants are enjoying this music or something. It's weird. One time I had it on while I was doing something in my house, and then I actually thought, oh, you know what? I need to go put some music on. I'm going to go put on some nice, cool jazz. And when I went over there, I then realized I was actually playing this on my mobile speaker. It actually sort of just like taken over my house. So good luck with it, but that's my gift to you. Let's go on to number 5. Okay, you knew it was coming, everybody. You knew it was coming on the list in terms of eating, right? Almost every one of us in this room is guilty of this one. And yes, the research does suggest this is something that you need to be worried about. Don't worry. All the different diets and recommendations of what you should be eating or not eating, and it shifts every month. I have a particular piece of advice. Some of us are not eating enough food that makes us feel good. Next slide. There we go. And it's funny, there's a huge link with Mustafa when he introduced his talk, and it's something I struggle with too, with Mustafa. It's the avocados. So, we've linked together here. I've got my aerobic avocado. I'm linking outlets here. Food that increases dopamine. I always keep this in mind when I'm thinking, am I eating healthy? Sounds weird, I know, but I always think about, am I eating enough food that will naturally increase the dopamine levels in my brain? Almonds, apples, oatmeal, rosemary, olive oil, and avocados. There's other things, don't worry, I'm not saying those are the only foods you have to eat. But these can help you in terms of your nutrition. Now, I know, it's a little ironic as these giant beer-producing machines are looming over us, and as we sit here in this, well, there's no two ways around it. We're in a brewery. Alcohol. What do people think? What's the news I'm going to tell you when it comes to alcohol? Bad news? Is it? I don't know. What do people think? Is drinking some alcohol okay? Yes, I hear lots of yeses. Lots of everybody's nodding their heads. Okay? Next slide. Well, look at this. A study just came out. When people drink a moderate amount of alcohol, so that's 0.075 blood alcohol level, they perform better on a variety of creativity tests. Yes! Thank goodness. Okay, every little thing's going to be all right. Alcohol, moderate amounts. So, of course, everything in moderation. All right, so again, hey, science said that too, so we're okay. Rate your item again in terms of nutrition and diet, 0 to 10. And let's move on. 6 challenge. I had a professor back in university, a third-year social psychologist, a really interesting fellow. He talked about everything as social calories. Same as we talked about, ironically, coming from the food slide. are we getting enough social calories? Each person's going to be different, but are you striving to have that? You know, we've evolved to reason better in groups than we have individually. Next slide. Don't underestimate the value of a certain core group of friends. Some of you are more extroverted or introverted, but you need to have at least a core group. Okay, so people can look up on their own time something called the Rosetta Effect. So the closest we have to studying different cultures, right in the USA, there is an area, Rosetta. People particularly work close together there. They're very social. They're very sharing. They actually have named this the Rosetta Effect in terms of the effectiveness of this area. Hot tip, of course, combine 2 of the first 6. Combine with socializing with something that also keeps you active. So something like playing tennis. I'm biased. I love a lot of racket sports. Apparently, the ideal thing you can do is ballroom dancing or some sort of dancing. It combines all sorts of different elements in terms of cognitively, socially, exercise. And late last night, I read a study suggesting going to concerts combines a social element plus you get music. So you're banging out more than one of these first 6 suggestions. Okay, next slide. There you go. How well are you managing these first 6 challenges? I want you to think about that, and then I want you to find someone that you're sitting nearby, and I want you to share a solution, something that you find works for you in these top 6 that maybe someone else doesn't know, and they'll do the same for you. You give back some type of suggestion. So find somebody, take a moment here, find somebody and talk about a solution that you've used. Introduce yourself to someone. You know, if you don't happen to know who you're sitting next to, then go for it. Okay, starting in 1 minute. 1 minute warning. 1 minute time up. Okay, everybody. All right. I'm going to go through a few other hot tips. And then we'll have a little short break anyway. So everyone, whatever they want to get a drink. You know, I think we're way past noon. They want to get a drink. They want to have a quick break. I'm just going to go through a few items. So this portion of the talk, if you want to write down any of this, it's on your other page in your binder, the tips. It's not item 7. This is tips. I do a far longer talk where I talk about each of these issues as goals, but that's in the 24 item version. I put these as tips for now, just so that we're not here for, Okay, so next slide. Go see. Next slide. Yes. Oh, to finish up your top 6? Sure, yes. Okay, sure, absolutely. Yeah, all right. Take another couple minutes. You can do that. And there's going to be a break and then another chance to talk too. But oh yeah, that's it. You're not done for. There's going to be another interaction session, and then you could always go back to the earlier stuff. So why don't you do that? We're going to do another interaction session later. You can rejoin, talk about earlier stuff, talk about the other stuff. Yeah. So there'll be another whole breakout session. Yeah. As people are getting seated and going again, and I have to give credit. I saw that there was even a realtor in Toronto. After I thought of this, he has a blog where he actually wrote about this. Very impressive. It's interesting. People buying a house, selling a house, particularly buying a house. When we think about this idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and whether you really remember or know much about that at all, it's fine either way. However, the different aspects of resources in the neighborhood, your health, is it near a hospital, love and belongings, does the house itself speak of intimacy and friendship and family? Do you feel a sense of connection with that property or that area? Your esteem, in terms of self-esteem and status, for better or for worse, often thought about in a purchase. And then, self-actualization. If you really, if you make a client think they're buying a property, where you're getting up to the self-actuation level, now you're really off. All right, next slide. Okay, so buyers and sellers with real estate, right? Keep in mind, each of you need to keep in mind that you are dealing with a clientele that they are not at their freshest when it comes to making good decisions. You've got individuals, each of you are thinking right now, particular clients you even had recently, where there's doubt, there's anxiety, there can often be anger in terms of if something doesn't come through. There's fear, there's potential jealousy, and it can bring out people's worst traits when they start to feel like that. So someone who's, say, perfectionist, when they're looking for a particular property or trying to sell, all of these things, you're dealing with this at an emotional level as a realtor. However, you have to keep in mind, you have to give your clients, more than a grain of salt. That it's hard for them to really come to the table with a clear and best decision. Somebody else, e.g. you, is going to have to be the one doing that. Next slide. Okay, just to even put it in more perspective for you. And I really thought hard about this when I was creating this talk. And I really tried to put my mind into the mind of this whole idea of buying and selling real estate. And just to put it into perspective of how much challenge is before you and how it's so impressive what each of you do for your occupation. You are having people where it's the emotional, if not the most emotional decision they will ever make in their life. You're dealing with individuals where this might be the most expensive transaction in their life. You're also dealing with people where it might not just be a single time or a single transaction. There's all sorts of different elements that go into buying or selling a property. Okay, so you've got it over time, numerous considerations, and as all of you know, with like a lot of your work is actually corralling and orchestrating numerous different people. Keeping in mind that we are all driven by our emotions and being irrational at a base level, this is an expectation. As a realtor, you have got a lot of different things going on where your ability in terms of your own emotions, but also to show your client that you understand theirs is absolutely crucial. There is no other transaction or situation that you will find yourself in as unique when it comes to this idea of buying or selling some sort of good than it is with real estate. I mean, when you put it in a perspective like this, it's super impressive what each and every one of you in this room does. Very impressive. As a clinical psychologist, I can tell you, this is very impressive. You've got a lot of moving parts. Next slide. Okay, so this, impress your friends with this. This is, I couldn't help myself. I was sort of happy that I came up with this analogy. Don't worry. Some of you might know this book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Great book. But one way for you to think about this with your clients, and there's these two, he talks about how there's these Nobel Prize winner, two different systems that humans can use to think about things. One of them that most of us rely on, it's very instinctual, it's sort of our fallback system, is very fast, instinctual, and emotional. That's how a lot of us will make a good chunk of our decisions. When it comes to real estate, I think I've compelled you that it's even more so. You can think about this when you're going about your daily business as a realtor. Your clients, they need you to be what we would call the other system of decision making, system 2. They need you to be, don't take it the wrong way with slow. They don't want you like a sloth moving along on the deal and feel like you're not really moving fast. So not like that, but in terms of really pausing, thinking about things, being very deliberate and logical. They're not going to be able to do that so well. And if you have a client that feels like you can fulfill that role for them, then I think you're off. So they're system 1, you need to be system 2. Next slide. Okay, just like clinical psychology, the same thing I deal with people on a daily basis when they come see me in my office. People want to feel their voices being heard and their emotions validated. If you get a client feeling like you genuinely understand their needs and they will feel like you are committed to buying or selling their property. I could say it's as simple as that, and I realize it's much more complex than that. But I'm guessing almost every single person in this room, outside of people that have really worked on this, have not realized the potential of just getting to know your clients a little bit better. Next slide. Okay, skills of the SPY. There's 3 main skills of the SPY. Anyone want to guess what they are? What kind of skills must a good spy have? And you know, I like this show. They're not really spies. I know they're assassins. But let's pretend they're spies. Sorry? Good listener. Hey, we're 1 for 3. A good listener. What else should a good spy have? Yep. Observation. So they're very good at observing and need to set up a way that they're able to do that. Great. What else? What other kind of things should a spy have? Yes. Good temperament overall. Excellent. And their ability to sort of use that temperament in different settings and to kind of go, you know, unawares. Great ideas. Next. Yep. One more. Okay, well, let's call it ability to adapt to the situation. I could do a whole other talk on deception, but don't get me going. Okay, so next slide. Oh, back on. Good listening, empathy, and ability to connect. These are things that are actually looked for in a good spy. These are the exact same things you can have these top 3 skills for a realtor. Good listening, empathy, and ability to connect. Next slide. You know, I love, personally, a humanistic psychologist, Carl Rogers. He talks about person-centered therapy. I started thinking about this as person-centered reality. Right? Are you employing person-centered reality? Next slide. And he also talks about something called therapeutic rapport. I'm going to suggest it's therapeutic real rapport. Right? You need to be actually thinking about this at a level of how you are presenting yourself to your client and what they are taking away from that in terms of their connection with you. One hot tip, challenge yourself with any given client, whether you're buying or selling their house. What are 5 other different things you can learn about that client? What are 5 things that you don't know that you can, challenge yourself to actually have where you could write out 5 different things of any given client. Think of that $40 million house scenario from the beginning of this talk. Whatever that situation is for you right now in your life, think about if you went and learned 5 more things about the individual or individuals involved in that transaction, what they would be. I almost guarantee you, I'll probably talk to one of you in the future. One of those 5 items actually could end up being what helps you complete that sale. One of those 5 items will somehow come into play and resonate with you in terms of your ability to make that sale. And having that piece of knowledge about them will be the exact difference of what as you make the sale. Next slide. Emotional intelligence is huge. IQ in and of itself is only about 20% of what will make you successful in your ability, whether it's a real estate deal or anything in life. It's all about your social skills, interpersonal skills, and your emotional intelligence. So this idea of putting yourself in their shoes as a cliche statement, it rings very true. Next slide. Okay. And in terms of building up that trust, I love it. I don't know how many people have watched the show, Mindhunter. Very interesting show on Netflix. You could use the same strategy that I would use when we're doing interrogations. I work with the police where I advise them on how should we interrogate this person that's not, say, giving up a body that they want to find. How would you go in and interrogate this person? One of the main steps we use is called the funnel approach, information gathering phase. With your clients, you can be doing those 3 things. Ask lots of open-ended questions. Have them providing you with the information. This works great with negotiations as well. You want them, the less you're speaking and the more they're speaking, the less you're speaking, the better. Be curious and genuine and listen, right? What is the story behind wanting to buy a house or selling the house? Starting to build up not only that empathy, but trust with your client. Next slide. Also, exuding positivity. You've all heard this before, but I assure you, if you can actually challenge yourself to exude positivity, more smiles, more open-mindedness, where you're dealing with a client, that positivity directly cues other people in terms of their willingness to try new things, in terms of their willingness to sort of act in decisions when it comes to even buying or selling a house. There's something called the Duchenne smile. You can look it up. it's been referred to as a window to the soul, where, well, if it's not the eyes, I don't know, it's the movement of the soul. The eyes are the window of the soul. Your smile is the movement of the soul. If you do this, your own brain will start to follow, and your own ability to problem solve, creatively think, critically think, goes up. Next slide. Okay, one of the last points on this idea of rapport and trust is this idea, again, of hard work and preparation, right? Where you actually know, in terms of not only your clients' values, but specialized knowledge that you can have, things that clients really feel like you're advocating for their needs. I was thrilled to see an article in the CBC recently, there was Global, from Romana King at Zolo, talking about really helpful, specific information. It's showing the clients you legitimately care about them at a deeper level. You know, maybe you specialize in you have sort of one of the specializations of your particular business or your identity, where you specialize these days for multi-generational families and looking for houses. Or you have a particular eco-friendly identity as a realtor. Even if you have a client that they're not looking for either of those two things, it actually will make them feel like you're a particularly caring, empathetic person. So you could easily have someone come to you and say, I'd like you to represent me. I'm not actually looking for a multi-generational house. I don't actually care so much about the environment, too bad. But I feel like if you're doing those things, putting that kind of detail and thought into it, then I want you to represent me. Next slide. Okay, and then of course you've all heard this before. I like including it though because we also have it in forensic settings. It means a totally different thing. The bad guys, you know, we're dealing with serial criminals and crimes. They have something called the signature. So you've saved me again, because when I have to deal with signature, it's often something really dark and disturbing where they want you to know they committed the crime. And so when I'm working with law enforcement and they say, here's their signature, it's usually not so pleasant. And of course, some of you may remember from American Psycho, there's a huge fight over eggshell white or what type of calling card or business card you have. Keep in mind, now this stat's a bit disheartening. I don't know. 70% of the clients who get an agent, they hire a year after closing. What are you doing even after the transaction is done? How are you making yourself unique? Each of you should think about, if I had to challenge each one of you right now to tell me, what's your signature? Literally, your signature. Nobody else, just you has it, and somebody would associate that with you. Next slide. Okay, creativity. A little bit about creativity, then we're going to take a break. This seagull is a real bird theme today. This seagull, very creative. Want some chips? Go get them. Actually think he looked to the side to see, you know, if he get the chips or not, and took off. Next slide. CBC just put out an article recently, what was number one on their list for the job market as we approach 2030. The number one, and these were ranked in order of importance. The number one piece in terms of a quality or skill that a human being can have, they called it mandatory creativity. And this is not innate. People are like, oh, I'm not so creative, or this is something that can be fostered, right? One of the points in is the most in-demand skill sought by employees across all industries. Next slide. Okay, there's all sorts of helpful strategies I can give you on creativity, from deprivation tanks to dimly lit rooms. We're doing good in here, actually, in terms of being able to be creative. Often in the shower or some sort of mindless task can help. And then lo and behold, when you're feeling guilty, oh, should I really be going and doing that? Looking at art before I have this big showing. Enjoying art prior to performing a creative exercise can improve results. Getting things going where you're moving your brain, thinking in different ways, super important. Next slide. And focus on what you're good at. Please, everyone. Focus on what you're good at. Absolutely feel comfortable avoiding. If there's tasks that aren't your forte, don't do them. And if there's mindless tasks that are taking up a bunch of your time, don't do them. If you want your creativity to shine through, even if you can hypothetically do it, hone right in on those things that might best represent that and stay away from these other tasks. This will play into a point coming up in the second half around procrastination. Next slide. Okay, and finally, if you're not using it, look at these cats in terms of classical conditioning. Even at an unconscious level, please be aware. People can have a response triggered when they're looking at a home, even in ways that they may not be aware of. Emotion. The cat on the right, he's a real character. Emotions outweigh rational thinking 2 to 1 when it comes to evaluating purchase decisions. Okay, keep that in mind. Emotions outweigh rational thinking 2 to 1 when it comes to evaluating purchase decisions. What's a couple other things you can do that will impact your client's emotions when it comes to buying or selling a house, because they have a lot more power than you might be putting emphasis into? Next slide, as sad as it is to leave those big cats. Short break. 20% of your creative breakthroughs come after a period of substantial stress and anxiety. Leave it on that slide. Let's have like a 10-minute break. We'll come back. Second half's a bit shorter. Then we do the game show for fun. Thanks so much, everybody. Everybody, we're going to bring out some bagels, I believe. People must be getting hungry, eh? It's like 1 o'clock. I'm hungry, I know that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, over on the side table, there'll be some bagels. We've got a 10-minute break, chance to get some food, chat, and then we'll come back for the second half. We'll go through the next 6 items, come with the points, play the game show, we're good. Hey, my pleasure. Well, if you
Ladies and gentlemen, if everybody can grab your seats, we're going to get started with the second half. If everybody can please grab your seats, we're going to get started with the second half. You can take your food with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please grab your seats. The show will continue. Please grab your seats.
Grab your food, put it in the chair, go sit down. We're going to get started in 2 seconds.
and this sounds promising. It says right here, cute home in the historic center. These are real listings of houses. This is a listing. This sounds promising. It says right here, cute home in the historic center. Let's see this cute home. Oh, honey, I love it. This black mold is adorable. Cute home in the historic center. All right, this is, here's another one. This is a rental sign outside the Palm Tower that says they have central air, security parking, a wet bar, and a large walking closet. Huh? Is my refrigerator running? No, but my closet's walking. Here's another one that let's just read it together, okay? We started off, it says spacious 1,500 square foot home with large lot, family living room, fireplace, and some big. No, I'll pass. I'm not interested. It'd be nice for somebody, but I'm not interested. I think they meant deck. But if I was there, I would ask them what year the deck was erected. Are you ready?
New Gatorade Zero.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody. There we go. All right, go through the next 6 items. I'm not going to run through them, but we're going to go fairly quickly. I know everyone's transitioning into eating and drinking and so forth. A couple more tips, and then we're going to have a 10-game show. 3 of you can start thinking now. If you feel like you've really been paying attention, you've been writing stuff down, you feel like you're ready for the challenge, 3 gift certificates on the line, $50, $35, and $15 liquor store gift certificates. You got to come up here playing my version of Who Wants to Be a Realtor Extraordinaire. Is that your final selling strategy? Okay, and Yossi, next new slide. Okay, so item 7, everyone's got their books back out and ready to go through the next 7 items. Just brief recap, or if you weren't here before, you're writing all these items, either 0, you're awful at this, 10, you're amazing at this, and seeing where you fit for the final 6 items. So item 7, one that I know I saw a lot of people actually saw, is speaking of like nonverbals, it's like, procrastination. That this can be a really tricky one for people, and people really struggle with procrastinating. Next slide. However, there are some very simple solutions to procrastination. We looked at research and we looked at different books that have considered what you can be doing. One suggestion is whatever the big task is or thing that you are procrastinating on, if you just simply pick the next step, try and break it into steps, whatever the very next step of that task is, and commit to only doing that part of the task. Okay, so this is more than just breaking it down into chunks. This is actually honing in on what some component or next step would be and doing that particular step. And you know what? The great news is, the really great news is that science has shown that just making a decision can even make you feel better in and of itself. So sometimes I think you all have this happen to you, where even if it doesn't end up being the ultimately best decision, it actually makes you feel better just to simply make that decision. Okay? I hear a lot of people saying, yep, rate that one 0 through 10. Give everyone a moment now to get back to the... Let's go to item 8. Okay, another one that plays right into procrastination, and some would argue the top, sort of the top of the mountain issue, routine. Some people in sales, whether it be real estate or not, would consider consistent routines to be the biggest, not only challenge, but ability to be a good salesperson and realtor. Around 40% of our behaviors are habits rather than decisions. Even if you think you're making a decision, it's often going to be a habit. So next slide. In fact, one of the first books that I read when I went down this path of thinking about being a salesperson, great book about this poor camel seller, the greatest salesman. One of the main ideas behind the entire book of how you can be a more effective, productive salesperson is the idea of having good habits. Some experts, and more than one, suggest this is the key to success. Next slide. So one easy solution is to use those cues more effectively. If you're trying to motivate yourself for exercise, if you're trying to motivate yourself to get to yoga class, think of some cue that will help that effectively happen. Whether it's a yoga mat by the door or something else that will remind you. And here's the part you all like. Also think of a reward, either before you do that activity or after, and then execute your plan. Right? Think of some element where you can do that. Sure, next slide is fine. I will recommend, we won't talk about it today, and you'll notice on your handouts at the very bottom on the 3rd page, I've given you, it's right from actually Charles Duhigg's first book, an idea of how you can go through setting up a particular goal, and what are the different steps you can use to pick some sort of goal you have right now, and work through those questions at the end of page 3 on your own time. And so these are great books talking about, especially if you figure out what are some of your worst habits that you want to change. You can feel really good about, even if you don't fix that habit. Let's say you've been struggling with a bad habit of smoking for years. Even if you don't fix that habit, just starting to work on it starts to shift areas of your brain, specifically to do with behavioral inhibition and self-discipline, that can translate to other habits in your life and have it start to have a bit more emphasis over things that are impulsive, habit-driven, so you can get benefits just by trying to work on these, what are Duhigg calls, I can't take credit for it, give credit to him, keystone habits, the biggies. Pick those, start to work on them even a bit, and it can yield rewards even with various other habits. Next slide. Okay, reaching your goals. So many different suggestions about this, but often I find it really does come down to, and this for anyone who's watching, I strongly recommend on Netflix, I Solo, one documentary of the year for the Academy Awards. It's about going, if you think your potential's here and your limits are here, This climber in this documentary puts them higher than the top of this brewery. It's so impressive and motivating. I solo. Like the letter I, just think a hand solo, there's your connection thing, but it's I solo. Unbelievable. Here he is contemplating the mountain he's going to climb without supports. Right? So for hours straight, he could die at any second if he loses any type of complete concentration. Next slide. If you haven't heard of these, and many of you will, SMART goals. If you're having a goal that you're wrestling with, if you can break it down into these 5 components, it's something specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And each of you can think of some example of like, okay, maybe you want to increase the amount of contacts you're making in the next month in terms of either buying or selling real estate by 20%. You look at how many you had in the last month. Can you increase that by 20%? Make it something that's specific. You have a way to measure it. You really challenge yourself that if you work hard, it's achievable. Of course, it's relevant to what you're doing with your work. And then you put some sort of time parameter on it. This is a really, I say basic, but don't worry. I'm not suggesting it should be simple or easy. But this is one technique you can use if you do SMART goals. And by the way, we won't get into it today, but an extended talk I give, we then talk about something called stretch goals. And those are the biggies. Those are the big fish, right? You have all these smaller SMART goals, and then you have a stretch goal, the giant, big, overarching ones. Next slide. Each and every given day, you start your day visualizing with some specificity around the goals for the day, what you would like to see in that day, and some sort of cues that you can have even on your fridge, as you leave, right by your keys is another great example. You try and customize your day very cleverly with very small things that can help you be better at each of your goals on any given day. Next slide. Okay, we've all had days like this. You watch that? Double whammy. You feel like you're having a stressful day, you get hit down, you're like, I'm going to get back up, I'm going to really take and tackle this day head on, and boom, a second time down, right? You really feel for this guy. At least he tried, at least he got up again, but then he got taken down again. How many people out there have had days like this, right? Yeah, I know, if you have free hand, I think everybody's hands will go. How many people out there have had multiple days in a row like this? Yeah, big time. What I'd suggest to you is these kind of days, you think about in your mind in the future, some of you are going to think this. You're like, you know what? I just had a double soccer ball day. Wow, this really feels like that gift. What I would suggest to you is these are the days where you should actually be happiest around when you're having that kind of mistakes, that kind of failures, that kind of challenges. Those are the days where you're like, now's the time I can really motivate myself and have something come from this. Okay, I know we can't keep watching. Here's Realtor. If you haven't seen this, I'm starting to learn this from Realtor. Wow. Absolutely. I think it's worth watching twice. That's a lot of emails. That's a lot of pressure on you. So you're all experiencing that type of stress. Here's my solution. It's very easy. We're learning more and more about the brain. This goes beyond just nature, being quiet. Such a nice, easy solution. Chill. This study just came out. I read about this within a clinical context with some patients that I was doing group therapy with, non-realty specific. Even 15 minutes a day. That's it. 50-year-olds that can have the brains of 25-year-olds. Man, that sounds appealing. If they sit quietly and do nothing for 15 minutes of each day. You get certain areas of the brain working that have to do with rebooting critical thinking, decision-making, and working memory. And guess what? That nasty little amygdala, that fear, that fight or flight, nasty amygdala, that reduces. Your brain actually follows suit. All you need is 15 minutes. Next slide. Okay, and by the way, there's all sorts of really clever apps. There's an app for that. Well, it's actually becoming more and more like that. One of my favorites that I use with some of my clients is Calm. If you want a little something to help boost you getting into this kind of mindset. Next slide. Okay, and it's funny. Back in the day, I used to go to this camp, Elphinstone, on the Sunshine Coast, and they actually had, whoever ran that camp, super clever person, they actually had a place called the Hermitage, where it's very out in the middle of nowhere, overlooking the ocean. It's totally distracted from all sorts of the madness of camp, and of course camp is a lot of fun. When I think back on it, I can't believe how many even like teenage boys who just sort of want to wander down there and sit there for a few minutes in this hermitage. And I realize we lose that as we get older. The idea of that type of place where we can be detached from the workplace. And I know this is extremely challenging for realtors to feel like they're able to do that. And of course, those of you that have the most potential, and hey, all of you are top 1% now in the Greater Toronto area, all top 1%, have the most potential for burnout, and so it's even more important you have the equivalent of your hermitage. So each of you should think about, where is that place for me? 15 minutes a day, that's all you need there. You know, I still miss the hermitage. This was decades and decades ago, a long time ago. Back. Okay, this book, all sorts of good messages in it if you haven't read it. Don't worry about the title. All I'm going to tell you is there are number 11 challenges. I can't get no satisfaction. Remember to be rating each of these out of 10. Sorry, I've gone a little fast, so if you need a tiny bit more time to catch up on rating them. You're going to have another breakout here in a second, so you'll be able to as well then. One of the key messages that I take from this book, next slide, to really not care about adversity, you must develop a passion and interest in something greater. This is one of the top 3 messages from this book. And if you want to sustain gains in happiness, one of the ways, look for new challenges in your life, but also look for them at work. You know, that idea of variety, it is so true in so many ways. Beware this term, hedonic adaptation. You know, dun, 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 dun. This is something you don't want to see veering into your life and into your brain. Hedonic adaptation is people's tendency, once they start doing something that gives them happiness or makes them feel good, if they don't mix it up, if they feel like that's good enough on its own, you start to go back to baseline. It doesn't hold. Right? The way you make it whole is you look for other aspects to have variety, to put some other elements in it. You can think about your workplace like this as well. Workplace avoid hedonic adaptation. Next slide. Oh, sorry, stay on that slide for a second. Oh no, next slide. Let's do it. There you go, for any of you Game of Thrones fans out there. Everyone's had work teams like this where someone disappears at the very beginning, doesn't show up until the end, says he's going to help, but he doesn't, forgets his job because of his girlfriend, and does 99% of the work. I think that can describe a lot of different settings. Back. What do you think is the number 1 question? The study just came out. Tell me, I got fresh products for all of you today. A lot of this stuff was just published in the last week. What do you think was the number 1 question that could most accurately predict when you would see a person had left their workplace within the next 9 months? They actually found a question with a high level of specificity. If this person was asked this question, depending on how they answered it, you can predict if they would leave that workplace in 9 months. What do you think that question was? Here we go, here's our first guess.
Do you like your boss?
Do you like your boss? Okay, that's our first guess from Paul. Let's hear some other guesses. What do you think really that accurately predicted? By the way, they did this in a whole bunch of different areas, a whole bunch of different contexts. It wasn't specific to one workplace. What do you think? What other question? Here we go, another answer.
Why me?
Why me? Okay, in what setting? Sort of in what sense?
In office setting. Why I have to do everything.
Why me? Yes, why me? I hear you. Some of you often have that in your brain in the office setting. Yes? Do you like your job? Okay, just straight up, do you like your job? We got 3 different potential answers. We have a 4th. Yes. What did you do at work today? Okay. I gave it up. Okay, the answer. The answer. How likely is it? As much as I love our play, how likely is it you would recommend whatever your company's name is, how likely is it you would recommend your company's name as a place to work? That was the question. Next slide. Okay, so in terms of solutions, this is something for each of you, and in terms of what you contribute in your workplace and working what I would suggest is a very amazing workplace at Zolo. One thing, team meetings, study after study shows you can actually set up a team meeting or get together where each person feels they have equal voice or speaking opportunity. I'm a great lover of jazz. I love Art Blakey, one of my favorite jazz drummer. He talks about also the group that plays together stays together. Okay, he's an amazing man, amazing drummer. On your own, here's a hot tip that's too much for today. If you're looking for another strategy in the workplace for teams and how you can most effectively make decisions and be productive, look up this term, enchère, if I'm saying it right. That's a hot tip. That's a Dr. Lewis hot tip that we won't talk about today. On your own time, if you're really going to go out there and go for it. Okay? And hey, good news. When we talked about dopamine before, exercise, listening to music, meditation, hobbies, and passion, they all count for manufacturing more dopamine. Next slide. There we go. Breakout sessions again. Find your same groups as before, find a new group, and talk about, you want to be sharing at least one strategy you have on one of these 6 items, and you also want to be getting a strategy that maybe you didn't know to talk about how you deal with these very challenging items. So let's take a few minutes now. Don't be shy. Don't let the after sort of lunch thing hold you back. And go ahead, find your groups. We'll take a few minutes for this so that you have time. Also to fill out your ratings as well. Okay, everyone, just looking at the time and people's schedules, and when some people got to roll, we're gonna wrap up here in about a minute. Couple more quick tips. Then we're gonna do the game show, and then you have a chance to socialize as long as you want after.
Swear to God, I can't hear
You can't hear me? People at the back hear me?
Like before it was.
People at the back? Yeah?
No, no, you didn't have me.
Yeah, you can hear? Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. All right, Yossi, maybe that's... Okay, everyone, we're gonna, afterwards, it seems like people are having a great time socializing and sharing tips. And I'm sure each of you has learned at least a few things from the other people that you're talking to in your groups about things 7 through 12. A couple last minute slides where I'm gonna give you a couple other tips. This is part, again, of when I do a longer talk on this, and I do it as a 24-item list. Get more detail, but a few things for today. Can't stress enough. Everyone in the room now is acutely aware of what technology has or hasn't done for us here in the last little while. And really, for the first time in human history, this is when our children that we are bringing up are going to have so much more knowledge than us when it comes to technology and how to effectively use it. So it's almost like an arms race level of us trying to keep up with our kids. There's been no other time that human beings, as adults, have not had that level of control and knowledge more so than their children. Children are going to be way ahead with the technology. I see it already. My youngest child is 15. And, if I have any major tech concern or issue, I'll go straight to him for the answer, not one of my adult friends. I know my 15-year-old son's got it down way better than me. So with that in mind, I'm sure all of you are aware, next slide, that think about the technology the same way we've talked about this whole talk, right? Where rather than just thinking as a strategy to kind of like connect out with people, think about it at a level of building that rapport and trust that we talked about so much earlier, but in an online environment. So think about ways that building up that trust and things like social proof and all that idea behind what narrative that you want to get out of your clients and that you're giving is being transmitted by what you're putting out on social media. Next slide. And it's fascinating how much power visual content and cues has. I don't know how many people are aware of the hidden cues in these logos. And it has that the cues in these logos have been speculated to make these companies like $1 bazillion. FedEx, we'll start with. How many people see it in FedEx? And apparently psychologically this has a major impact on people. You'll see this now all the time from now. I did this to my wife when we were just driving down to Seattle. She's like, I don't see anything. Told her, and then next time we saw the FedEx, she's like, oh yeah. Oh, now I'll see. Between the E and the X, it's an arrow pointing forward. See the arrow right there between the letter E and the letter X. There's an arrow pointing forward. This is suggesting to a person, what do you want with FedEx? You want to get it quick. You want to have it efficiently on its way. So there you go. How about with the Hershey's Kiss? I couldn't find the Hershey Kiss one for a while. I started getting fairly frustrated. Anybody see anything in the Hershey's Kiss? How many see it? Okay, we got a few. Between the K and the I, lo and behold, you have a sideways Hershey's Kiss. They've actually put one right in there for you. Right? In terms of familiarity and seeing something in the logo, there you have it. Sometimes the simplest little thing, and people feel like these companies just so simple, but that people, once they have that at an unconscious level, you're moving forward. You're using FedEx, you got the arrow right there. It can be incredibly effective. Next slide. Okay, some basic faux pas, part of the talk that I don't get into too much today in terms of body language. What's wrong with that picture? It looks pretty good to me. You post that as your image on your social media. You're on vacation. Hey, what's wrong with it? Why would you not, if you were trying to represent yourself, why is this picture a big no-no? Well, I know, yeah, white shirt, you maybe shouldn't. So part of it is wearing a hat, maybe. Some people don't have it yet. I got shirt. Give me over here for 10. I got hat over here 15. I see sunglasses. I've actually got smile. Okay. Man, the smile's a little weird, right? That's not a Jim Shane smile. So I almost started going into my auctioneer mode. I can't help it. Maybe for the game show. It is, for this picture, it is the glasses. If there's one thing you need to transmit, right before we had, in terms of those windows to the soul or the movement of the soul, the eyes, the window to the soul. The last thing on earth you want to do for a picture representing yourself to people that are thinking about getting into something as profound as real estate transaction with you is to have a picture representing yourself where you have sunglasses on. You want your eyes up front as much as possible, and you want to take the picture. A lot of people are rushed, we got to take this picture, got to represent. When can we find a minute? You actually need to take the picture when you genuinely feel the most positive, uplifted, you're in the greatest mood. You need to actually have your picture transmit that. And so it's super strategic when you even take the picture. And whoever said hat, I think you win as well, because that would kind of cover the eyes. Next slide. Oh boy. Recommendation 2 around innocence. I love this guy to death. I had to post it. 2 recommendations. You know both of these very well. You have to have some downtime from the technology. As realtors, I get this is incredibly difficult to put down your phones, your devices. Being constantly attached to your device, study after study shows this puts your stress levels way up. And then your ability to critically think goes down. One of the golden rules, if anything even remotely stressful comes through your inbox anytime after about high noon, really, unless it's absolutely crucial, never ever respond to that email if it's at all possible until 1 sleep. I employ the 1 sleep rule all the time. And I'll get police officers contacting me saying, we've got this going on in a negotiation. We need this and this. It's urgent. And I actually try and parse apart if I can use my 1 sleep rule or not. And anytime I can, I want to sleep on it one night. And 99% of the time, I feel good that I employed that strategy. Hate to say goodbye to the cat, but okay, next slide. Don't get too caught up in the technology. A lot of people are really veering that way. Keep in mind that printed material has extra types of sensory. You get both sight and touch. Okay, so it gets processed at a deeper level. So that's caveat number 2 with technology. Next slide. Also technology, I want to put this in here, there's all sorts of great things for cognitive, like thought diaries. Finally, last few slides, we start to think about, if you want to come up here as part of the game show, negotiation strategies. Some of the things we've talked about today fit in very nicely for negotiation. Next slide. One of them is something a lot of you have probably heard about. Oh, right, first, crisis negotiation. A lot of what you do is very similar to what I would do in a crisis negotiation situation. Think about the talk today: active listening, empathy, rapport, then influence. The behavioral change here is somebody makes a sale or makes a purchase. You can literally employ what the FBI uses, the behavioral change stairway model. This is how they can tell a person to come out of a hostage-taking situation or some sort of critical incident. They use a strategy very effectively that I would suggest to you is not far off of how you could go about using your own most effective strategy with clients. You need all those things, and you kind of need them in that order. Next slide. So 4 different strategies you can think of. Confirmation bias. Not only should you find out, like we talked about earlier, what your client believes in. People are so ingrained in their beliefs. If you can find out more in a negotiation setting, what the person you're negotiating with, the other parties involved, if you can find out information that supports their beliefs, this is one of the strongest drivers around people's behavior. So always think about how you can use confirmation bias. Next slide. Loss aversion. When you're negotiating with people, they have found this in like a bazillion studies. Some would suggest it's the greatest motivational tool there is in sales. People will always choose the confidence of not losing something over the chance to gain something. And humans are not good from a probability perspective. As you start to get more close to exact 0 or exact 100, they start to lose their ability to reason as well. But think about with the way you're putting together offers and deals. If you can do it in a way where you're making the person think more in terms of what they could lose, this is much more effective than in terms of what they can gain. By the way, a couple hot tips on this slide. We got many, many. Miller's magic number, if you haven't heard of it, most humans, 7 plus or minus 2. That's about the amount of chunks of information most humans can take in at any given time. If you're putting together a deal, if you're putting together a negotiation, and you're trying to get everything listed down there as much as possible, throw it all out there, it may not be a good idea. Keep in mind, if you can put it into chunks, 7 plus or minus 2. It's one of the sort of most proven numbers. Final suggestion, when you're negotiating back and forth, and hopefully this will help specifically for some Zolo agents, study after study has found you might want to start negotiating whatever number you want, right? You can do an extreme anchor, maybe you can do an extreme really low number or high number, depending on what side you're on. When you come down to the number that's your real sweet spot, the number that you're hoping you can actually achieve, don't do it as an even number. So don't do, say, it's 790,000. What you should do is you should do an odd or specific number. You should literally do like 799,412. Like that literally should be your offer. It tells the person you're negotiating with 2 things. I mean, it's a very specific number. So they're like, okay, they must have really put some hard work and thought into this number, right? They're not messing around trying to back and forth sales. Like that number must mean something. So it puts it on them to think, do I really want to mess with that number in any fundamental ways? And it shows that you've put a lot of thought into that number. So this can be very effective. You huck out a number like that, and you can have that take it to a whole different level in terms of what the person you're negotiating with thinks is going on. Next slide. Likeness, of course, anything you can be practicing around mirroring behavior, what we call the chameleon effect. One of the other most important motivators is self-esteem. If you get a person feeling like you like them, and if you're able to do that without it seeming awkward, where you're almost like in some really awkward level, mirroring all their behavior, and getting a little strange fast, this also helps in terms of negotiations. Final slide. Reciprocity, good old reciprocity. I think all realtors already know this, but I just wanted to confirm this for all of you. Top 10 sort of cognitive strategies in any species where food supply is uncertain or fluctuates. Not so much, of course, at the level it used to be for humans. However, it is remarkable how any sort of small, thoughtful gesture, something that you can give a person, can come back in spades. And it is ingrained in humans' brains at an instinctual level in terms of fairness. Even if they're not aware of it, they will feel like, in terms of reciprocity, if you are able to give them something where it has that feeling of being communal. All right, and next slide. That's the end of the talk before the game show. Of course, Hakuna Matata, no worries for all of you. Hopefully I've given you all sorts of things to think about. Almost all of your greatest achievements will come in the face of your greatest challenges. I want all of you to think about that as you go about. On one of your most stressful days, think of me and be like, yes, I'm having a super stressful day, and I like it. All right, so that's the end of the official talk. Thank you very much, everybody. Who wants to play? Okay, first hand up, you're up. Second hand up, there's two. We need one more. Oh. Let's talk to questions after. Let's do this game show. Let's get it rock and roll. All right, $50 on the line. Yeah, we do. We go to the correct answers. Okay, and $15 on the line, but I mean, whoever volunteers still can be the $50. There's a third volunteer. Who wants to play? All right, there you go. First three hands. Here we are. Who wants to be a realtor extraordinaire? Woo! All right, contestants, is that your final selling strategy?
Yes.
All right, okay. So first off, I think it's important, big round of applause for our three contestants. Big round of applause. Okay. So, you know, in this game, I devised all on my own. I also thought of something, all on my own, called the 50-50. If there's one of the questions that you're not sure of the answer, I'll take away two of the incorrect answers, leave you with two, okay? And there's also something called Ask an Audience Member. So, if one of you on your question thinks you know somebody in the audience who's really been paying attention, writing things down, you can ask them as well, okay? No notes for the contestants. No. Yeah. Okay. You can only use, just for sake of time, you can only pick one or the other. Not each of you gets to use both of those. You can either use a 50-50 or ask an audience member. So once you've used one strategy, that's it. Okay? All right, just randomly. I'm going to use my random generator right now. We're going to start from the left. So you get question one, which is okay. I think it's hopefully an approachable question. Yossi, there we go. There's question one. By the way, if people make it right to the end, and we still have more than one standing, we're going to do old-fashioned rock, scissors, paper for these things. So there's 12 questions. Let's see how far people can get. Okay, and everyone in the studio audience can think about if they know the answer. Here we are in a brewery. Question number one. Science says, what amount of alcohol is good for creativity? Contestant number one. And sorry, names, what's happening here? We got Jess, okay, contestant number one. Barry, contestant number two. And Kendra, contestant number three. Okay, yeah, go ahead. She's answering. Do you want to use one of your two strategies? Huh? Okay. What's your answer?
I'm gonna say moderate amount of alcohol.
Moderate amount of alcohol. Let's say moderate amount. Very good. Very good. Okay. Question number two. Oh, there's correct answer first. Sorry. Go to correct answer first. I can't help myself. Just go back to correct answer yours, or it's the next slide. When you get a correct answer, you get this thing I made called the correct answer. He does correct answer. It says correct. There you go. It keeps going, but we can do more later. Okay, question number two. Question number two, Barry. You're in the hot seat now. What is not an example of food that was recommended in this talk? What is not an example? Let people think. A, olive oil, B, apples, C, almonds, D, raisins. Recommended in this talk. Barry is going with D. Oh, raisins? Raisins! Hey, right on, still in it. Question 3. The foods discussed in this talk release what into the brain? Kendra, does it release A, dopamine, B, endorphins, C, serotonin, or D, CBD? No, remember, audience, we're not supposed to. Everybody wants to. Hey, everybody can. I was going to do it where we could all play, but I didn't think the bandwidth would. What are you going with, Kendra? Is that your final selling strategy? Hey, dopamine! Everybody's through the first round. Okay, round 2, they get a little trickier. Okay, and no help from the audience unless she uses it as her strategy. The gift of cats I showed you was meant to illustrate what principle? Answer is behavioral conditioning. Oh, classical conditioning. Oh, so you use one of your strategies. That's okay. You know what? We have our gift certificate here for $15. Another big round of applause for our participants. Big round of applause. Okay, question number 5. One of the issues with sustaining happiness gains over time that we talked about in the second half of the presentation is referred to as, Barry, you're right on the mark here. What are you going with? He is saying, interesting response. He's saying A, hedonic adaptation. The answer is beware the hedonic adaptation. Dylan? Next question 6. In the talk, Kendra, in the talk, what hierarchy was talked about? Was it Ekman's hierarchy of needs? Was it B, Maslow's hierarchy of emotions? C, Buffett's hierarchy of likeness? Or D, none of the above? You can ask an audience member, you can 50-50 it. So they didn't answer the answer. One more. There. She wants to do 50-50. She wants to do 50-50. I'm going to magically take away answers. C and A are gone. C and A are gone. Leaves B and D as your 2 potential choices. You used up your strategy, so audience, again, you use your 50-50. What are you going with? You're going with B or D? You're great punch. You're going to share it? Well, one gets a 35, one gets a 50. Let her go for it. I like that, Barry. I like that a lot. Yeah! Right, the answer is none of the above. It's actually Maslow's hierarchy of needs. She said, that's right. You get $35 gift certificate. Big round of applause. Thank goodness. The next round of questions, if you see question 7, it starts getting into the different birds, so it's going to get tricky. Last question, last thing. Yossi, you can go forward a few slides for the very end. Go past question 12. First, you want to give a big round of applause for our winner, Barry. Congratulations. So there you go. Final question. I'm curious to know how many people pick Peacock? How many do Project Peacock up there? Okay. How many doing Project Hummingbird? Okay. How many doing Project Raven? Wow. All right. And how many doing Project Owl? Okay, we've got a nice mix. So there's your projects moving forward. Yossi, next slide. Remember the challenge. And I would suggest if you're getting 8 or above on average on those items, if you're scoring 9.6 or above out of 120, you're doing really, really well. So you can score it now, score it again in 24 days, go to the next slide. I want to say good luck to the class of 520, top 1% realtors in Greater Toronto area. Good luck and thank you. No, not that side. Yep, perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and look forward to chatting with some of you. Late. Well, in my defense, if we started earlier.
There's no defense here for not phenomenal. People sat up your seats for me. So, thank you very much. Very well done, man.
Nice,
So good.
Appreciate it.
A lot of fun too, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Good to keep going to 2:30. Yeah.
How are you? Nice to see you. How's it? Good. Hello, sir. How you doing? Good, man. How about you? Really good. Really good. Just end the stream there.
Congratulations, man.
There, Kevin.